Welcome to Parenting GPS, navigating your parenting journey. I'm Kari, Kling, the host of your show. Meetings, meetings, meetings. Most of us have way too many meetings in our lives. But I'm going to share with you today, along with my two guests, about the most important meeting you can have in your life, a family meeting. We're going to share with you about why this is so important, how you can improve family relationships, increase and strengthen family bonds, work on projects and planning for your family, and have a lot of fun. It is my joy to be able to host two wonderful guests with you today. We're going to begin in our first segment right now with Amy Carney, and I'd like to read her introduction, and then in the third segment we're going to bring Adriane Thompson in, and she's going to share a little bit more about her perspective with her children who are younger. Amy Carney is a leadership parenting coach, author, speaker, and product maker. She started her company Parent on Purpose to create content, products, and events to help moms and dads raise their children with more joy and purpose. Amy and her husband of 25 years, Keith, are parents to 21-year-old triplet sons, a 19-year-old daughter, and two other sons, 16 and 11 years old, that they recently adopted from the Arizona foster care system. Amy, thank you so much for joining us today to share your expertise with everyone.
Thanks for having me, Kari.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I mentioned about Amy's company. Amy is the author of this book, Parent on Purpose. And you can find information on the family meetings we're going to talk about today, as well as a lot of other information in her wonderful book. And so, Amy, before we get into the specifics of a family meeting, would you please share the story with our viewers of how you became aware of family meetings and what that looked like for you as a kid?
Yeah, sure. So my best friend, growing up in Indiana, I would be over at her home, and if I happened to be there on a Sunday afternoon, her mom would ship me home because they were going to have their family meeting, and no one else was invited, but their family. And I would walk home thinking, this is strange. Like, my family doesn't do this, but there was something about it that was so intriguing. Why doesn't my family do this, right? And I love that they protected that time, and so I took that with me into adulthood. And when I had my own kids, I knew that I wanted to start trying to have family meetings to gather and connect together.
It's such a great story how that was something that happened to you as a child, and you never forgot it and incorporated into your own family as an adult. And so, as a person who has conducted family meetings, hosted family meetings in your own family, taught other family or other parents about how to do this in their families, what do you think are the goals of having a family meeting, and why is the consistency of that so important?
Well, I think it's pretty simple. Our families are busy today, right? We can be running in all different directions. And so for me, I found setting intentional time around the table to have family meetings was a sacred time where we could all come together and discuss, things that were going on in our family, good and bad, and also just make it a way that we could, everyone had a voice, everyone could communicate, and it was something we could count on that happened regularly. This is what we do. This is our family. And just made it a habit that was really a positive thing. I think that we all ended up, looking forward to.
And, one of the things that you mentioned about if things are going well, if they're not going well. So a family meeting doesn't have to be, okay, we have this big problem and we have to solve it, but it's about creating these family traditions and rituals, if you will, and making that protected time to come together. How do you think, Amy, how do you feel that, and you have two children who you've adopted, how do family meetings help with that feeling of belonging?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, that's the whole point of it, I think, is to come together as a family, and that where everyone has a voice, everyone, gets to feel connected, and everyone feels included, and like you said, a sense of belonging. Everyone wants to feel they belong, and if they don't feel like that in our family, they will seek that out elsewhere. So we want to make sure we're creating that intentional time as families where our own children, we take for granted, right, that they feel like they belong. They may not, and so this is a way that we can bring that to our families.
Exactly. And there's so much research about this, Amy. The research about the stages of group development, and there are different models of it. But I'd like to just take a moment, since we're talking about this, and share this with our viewers. That the research I'm going to share with you, and it's very quick, it's not heavy duty, deep research, is from a woman by the name of Jean Gibbs. And she talks about group development, and I'm going to apply it to a family. The first stage is inclusion. What you just said, Amy, we are wired, if you will, as humans, to feel included. And as you said, if kids don't feel included in their family, they'll find a place where they feel included. It could look like a gang. It could look like hanging out with the wrong kids, in terms of getting into trouble. Not that the kids are wrong, but the behavior is inappropriate. So feeling that you're included is the number one thing, that the number one aspect of our emotions that this can really support. The second stage of group development is out of influence, where we begin to start, okay, well, mom said this, or my brother said this, or we start to really listen to each other and apply what other people in our family are telling us and begin to contribute more, until the third stage of development, which is a sense of affection or a sense of community, where we're really, creating those tight bonds. And we look at, okay, we're a team. We can do this together. We're there for each other. We can help each other. And it's so important. And you don't really have to know those stages, because it all happens naturally as you begin to do more and more family meetings consistently. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. See, I didn't even know all that background uh, knowledge. And so it's good to know that, there is data supporting family meetings.
Yes, you knew it you knew it emotionally, you knew it intuitively. And so, a lot of parents out there might be wondering, well, where do I start? And, what if the kids don't want to? And how do I have an agenda? Who picks the agenda? So many questions, and they're really just easy things. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to come back. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to be asking you questions about sharing all of those details with our viewers.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Amy, one of the things that I know parents are always not concerned about, but thinking about when they want to try to implement family meetings in their homes, is who decides? Who decides on the agenda, the topic? Is it the kids? And I know you have a family agenda that you've created, and others can get copies of. Would you share with us a little bit about that, please?
Sure. Well, for us, we, the parents, make the agenda according to what's going on currently in our family. So that's how we do it. And I think that's what's great about family meetings, is you do it how it works best for you. So yes, as the parents create the agenda, and then the kids get to have their voice during the meeting.
And so if one of the kids ever came to you and said, I think we should put, such and such situation, could we talk about that at a family meeting? Then you could go ahead and include that and move forward, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to encourage, I think, right, is them to have an input on things that are going well in the family or things that aren't going well. And that it's a good way to resolve issues that you're having in your family. It's a perfect way to do that.
Right. And you said earlier, it gives each child a voice. And sometimes kids act out when they feel like they're not being heard, and they feel like no one understands me and nobody listens to me. And it's such a positive way to create that kind of an environment for your kids. Amy, one of the things that I know you also do with your family meetings is that, and people don't have to do this, it's just an idea, is that you like to have monthly themes. within your family meetings. Would you share a little bit about that, please?
Sure. So off the bat, I have a planning sheet that I usually use, and that we'll be able to link to, I think, that you can do as well. So you can start thinking about the upcoming monthly meeting if you do it monthly. And I like to incorporate kind of values based on the holiday of the month. If it's Valentine's Day, we can focus on love and how are we showing love in our family. Or if it's, November, we talk about, in conjunction with Thanksgiving, gratitude, and how are we showing gratitude in our family. So that's one of the ways that I like to incorporate values that are important to our family into our family meetings, kind of around holidays, just making that more fun as well. You can do it with the decorations or the dessert you're serving. That's just been a way for me to actually organize to, more of a organized agenda.
And it's so important because you're modeling for the kids about planning, about time management, about taking your ideas and, remembering to put them down on paper so that you can come back and talk about it at a later time and you don't forget. So many wonderful, but what we think of sometimes as executive function, skills, if you will, for the kids. You're modeling that beautifully for them. I know one of the other things that you do within your family meetings is that you have an opportunity where you honor a certain family member, and it's such a special and wonderful thing that you do. Would you please share that with our viewers?
Yeah, and I grabbed it off the table. So we have something that's called a candle of honor. And so it's just something where each family meeting, someone in the family gets honored for something that they've done, something they've shown, usually value-based, somebody. And so that's something that we've done. And you've got to know, if you do incorporate that tradition, that the kids won't be happy in the beginning when they're not chosen, right? It can, and I think that's something that people, don't expect, that the kids, everything's not going to go perfectly when you begin family meetings. The kids won't want to do it. They're going to be the one that wants to get honored, and things might feel a little out of control, and that's okay. The more you do it, the smoother it'll go and the more connecting you'll be able to do.
Yeah, and really, I mean, it's modeling for kids about life. Things don't always go the way that we want them to, and we may have, done something special and maybe it wasn't recognized right away, but having that place where you can honor each other. And I love what you said about it could be value-based, because so many times parents want to acknowledge you got an A on your test, or you finished the race in record time, but it can be an effort. It can be a gesture of showing kindness, or as you shared before about how do we show love in our family, and to point that out. One of the things that I say all of the time, and those viewers out there who have watched the shows that we've done so far, you probably have heard me say it at least 5 times already. And it's that the behavior that gets the most attention is the behavior we'll see more of. And so we want to honor and reinforce and give attention to all of the things that you're talking about now that are taking place within the family meeting. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Another great thing we like to do is we always use conversation starters. That's a great way to kick off a family meeting too, to get people talking and people having fun before you get into maybe the deeper topics that you're going to talk about as a family.
And I know you have those available on your website, and we'll share all of that information at the end so people can reach out and get those if they want to. You said one more key thing I want to bring up before we take a break, and you said about having fun. And family meetings, even though they might feel like a bit of a struggle in the first place, and we're going to address some of these things before the end of this show, but it should be fun. It should be a time to be joyous and celebrate each other.
Right. And I think, and Adriane and I teamed together on a blog post a little while back, and I think we both talked about, how important it is to bring fun into the family meetings, and, serving dessert. That's the key, right? Kids love dessert, and it's not something we normally do on a regular basis. So, if you're just having leftover Halloween candy to a homemade dessert, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to, be a big ordeal. But for the kids to get them at the table, serving dessert is a good way to do that. And then playing a little game or whatever, whatever is fun for your family, and is something that you want to incorporate.
Such a great idea. Last thing for this segment, Amy, you have older kids, and I know your three oldest triplets are off at college. Your 19-year-old daughter is off at college. But when they were all at home, you would have family meetings and include obviously all of the children, so your younger children as well. But
Mhm.
sometimes you and your husband had to meet with the older kids. It was a car situation. I'm just going to use that as
Mhm.
an example. And you don't want the younger kids to have to just sit there and like, when is this going to be over? This doesn't impact me. Could you take a moment, please, and share about how you do that, kind of a graduated, okay, this part of the meeting is over, and older kids, you stay. Would you share that, please?
Absolutely. Yeah. And in your family meeting, you can start out all together, right? And then the younger ones aren't there that long, your family dynamics. And then you can send them off to the shower to start their bedtime routine or whatever it is. And then the older stay longer, like you said, to talk about things that are happening in school, supplies they need for the week, for the month, for projects, car situations, college applications. Yeah. So you absolutely, the whole family won't necessarily sit there the entire night, depending on your dynamics.
Yeah, but they could. And so it
Yeah.
really depends. And you mentioned Adriane and doing with younger children. And so when we come back, we're going to introduce Adriane and talk about what family meetings look like in her family with younger children. So we'll be right back. We've already had a chance to speak with Amy Carney, and she has shared a little bit of the foundation and the structure of what her family meetings look like, with a variety of ages in her family, the kids from 11 all the way up to 21. And now we're going to get another perspective from mom, Adriane Thompson, and I'm going to introduce her in just a moment. And she's going to give us her perspective of what it looks like with younger kids. But first, let me share with you a little bit about Adriane. Adriane is a mom to three boys, ages 6 through 13, and a very passionate person who runs a blog called Raising Kids with Purpose. She's a certified parenting coach and an executive assistant to a CEO and CXO for a non-traditional education company. Her hope is to inspire parents to create lifelong connections with their children and enjoy the journey along the way. Adriane, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Oh, I'm so happy that you're here. So Amy shared, as I mentioned, about what family meetings look like in her home. Could you please just begin and share with us a little bit about how you begin with younger children?
The biggest thing is ours definitely are not as structured, and they're more probably play-based, and the fun, like the games and the conversation starters, like Amy mentioned, we do a little bit more of that. And the meat of the meetings are a little less, because we do have a 13-year-old now, and we're starting to dive into deeper topics. But like Amy said, the other two can go, and then we just keep meeting with him.
So, and that's the beauty of family meetings, is you make it work based on your needs and your dynamics. And so what advice do you have for parents? And this could be for the older kids as well, but especially with younger children. What are some things that you would encourage parents to work on and to think about before they actually try to sit down and have a family meeting?
The very first thing is expectations. Amy kind of said this too, is it may not go exactly how you have planned, and it may be a little chaotic or crazy, but embrace that. I think at the beginning I was like, we're gonna all sit around the table, no one's gonna interrupt each other, and that didn't last very long. And so, but what we do before is we try to set some ground rules. So first is my mindset and my husband's mindset of what this is going to look like, and then we have some ground rules of, we want to be respectful of each other, and instead of just telling our kids, we ask them, what does that look like? I have a couple kids that really struggle with interrupting, so instead of expecting them to sit and not talk or interrupt their brother or interrupt one of us, I know that's probably going to happen. So instead, we gave them some tools, and one of the best tools for that is they grab our arm, and so they know they're seen. I touch their hands. I know that they can feel me, and then they wait until we talk. So we just set little rules like that, and based on the unique individual kids and what they're able to do and not able to do.
Absolutely. And, going along with that, I know a lot of parents implement with the younger kids something, you can call it a talking stick. It can be a marker. It can be a little stuffed animal. It can be anything. And so the expectation of the person who's holding the talking stick or whatever you call it is the person that's talking. And so that's a little more tangible for children to watch. But what you said about the expectations and the mindset is so important. And, even working with children about, okay, so if we were all being respectful to each other, what would that look like? We wouldn't be, grabbing the other person. We wouldn't be throwing something. We would be sitting calmly. We would be, establishing eye contact. What kinds of things would we hear people saying? We would, good job. Thank you for sharing. And so these things have to be taught, not just assuming that they would know how to do that.
And
so
not just taught, but also, I'm sorry, but also
No, go ahead.
modeled as well. Yeah, so we teach them, and especially with my kids, they have a demand avoidance. So if I tell them this is what you're going to do, a lot of times, and they fight against that. So instead, we just model, and show
Absolutely.
them how to do it.
Absolutely. And the more, as Amy said, the more they do it, the easier it will become. What do you see for you personally? What do you see as the goals for you and your husband to have these family meetings with your kids?
So we really take the time to bring up values. I love how Amy bases her meetings around themes that go along with a value, which is super valuable. And so that's a goal, is to really help them see that they're they're part of something bigger than just themselves. So Absolutely. That's a really big piece of it. And then there's so many skills that they learn: being respectful, like you said, learning how to communicate with each other, conflict resolution. There's just a ton of other skills on top of being part of a family unit.
Yeah. And once again, it doesn't have to be, oh, there's a problem, we have to have a family meeting about it, because you don't want to have this negative, connotation about, the idea of a family meeting. And I know on your blog, one of the things that you mentioned, and Amy mentioned a little bit, is about making them fun and special. Could you share with our viewers, please, just a few of the ideas that you use, that you do to make it fun and special?
The one thing that we do that our kids absolutely love, and I've had some readers give me really good feedback about this as well, is instead of the candle, which I do love that idea so much, we cheer each other and they dance around the kitchen table. So for example, one of my kids' names is Nolan. So go Nolan, go Nolan. And the whole family cheers for Nolan, and he gets to just shine and dance around the table. And so we do that pretty much with everyone in the family, even mom and even dad. And so that makes it really fun. We try to end the meetings with that, and they cannot wait for that. We've been doing family meetings since my youngest was 2 and he's now 6. And my oldest is 13. He still loves that spotlight around the table.
So
and then games,
special.
and games like Amy mentioned, and dessert treats, something fun for them to eat.
Right. And it doesn't have to be a sugar treat. It can be something, a healthy snack as well.
Yeah.
One of the things that I loved about reading your blog is that you, your family decided to come up with a name for your family meetings. And this is something, you can do it if you want to, you don't have to, whatever you want to do is fine. The importance is about the sitting down, the talking, the communication. But would you like to share with our viewers what your kids came up with for a name for a family meeting, and how they can come up with one? Did you vote on it? Did the kids all give input? How did that look?
I honestly can't remember now how they decided, but for some reason they call them Kevin Bacon. I don't know why. It's completely random, but for, the viewers out there, you could do family powwow, family huddle, and there's lots of different ways and things that you can come up with, or each kid can pick any kind of, now you can kind of do the Mad Libs type of thing and create a name that way. But yeah, we call our family meetings Kevin Bacon. I'm not quite sure why.
Hysterical. And I'm sure they'll never forget it. And lastly, before we go to our segment where we take questions from our viewers, I just want to say that no matter what your family looks like in terms of the makeup of your family, you can still do this. It's all about communication and everything else that we talked about, a sense of belonging, creating security, all of the skills. So, Adriane and Amy both talked about doing it with their husbands and their kids. Whatever your family makeup is, go for it. We're going to come right back with questions from our viewers with your parenting destination. Be right back. And now we have Adriane and Amy back together for our fourth segment, Your Parenting Destination. And we have two questions from our viewers today that they're going to answer for you. And I'm going to read them exactly as they were written. Our first question is from Jenny L. from Phoenix. How do you handle it if your spouse or partner has a different viewpoint regarding something that you're going to be talking about in a family meeting? Do you work it out during the meeting, or is it something that you would work out before the meeting? Who would like to answer that?
I'll answer that. For our family, it's important that we work it out outside of the family meeting so that we're coming united as parents to lead the children. So that's the way we do it. I think that if there's something where we both have different viewpoints on something that isn't significant, it's also important to show we have different ways of handling things in front of the children. So you just have to know what that topic is, but we like to do it before, so we're coming united to the table.
And being a united front is really important for the kids, so that it's not like, okay, here's this wonderful place that we can come together and then mom and dad are fighting, So absolutely. Would you like to add to that, Adriane?
I love how she added that they may have a discussion in front of the kids too, because maybe they don't come to a conclusion, but I think that's really important for kids to see as well.
100%. And I want to clarify what I said. It's just, you don't want to have an argument about it.
Right, you're not going to be in a battle.
Right, right, exactly. But the conversation,
let's not do that.
absolutely. It's model when it comes to communication and everything else we want our kids to become competent at. And our second question is from Stephanie G. from Logan, Utah. And Stephanie writes, I have 3 children between the ages of 4 and 13. I've tried to create family meetings, but each time I do, I feel like one of my kids acts up and doesn't want to participate, creating a bit of a power struggle. And I end up angry and frustrated. What advice can you offer to me? Adriane, would you like to take that? Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. My heart just goes out to her because I could just, feel that would feel defeating. And what I mentioned earlier really is expectations. So figure out why. Why is that child not able to sit? Is it feel too much like school? Or, I have one kiddo that's homeschooled because it was too traumatic for him to, sit and be told what to do all day long. So if our family meetings are kind of looking like school, it's not going to work. And so we just kind of have an expectation he's going to walk away. And I've noticed the more consistent we are, he'll just kind of work his way back into the room. He may not be sitting, he may not be seem like he's listening, but he'll mention things later in the week that he's listened to basically every single word. So just expectations, and then also try to make it fun. Sometimes we'll do family meetings out on the trampoline. Sometimes we'll do it out on the sensory swing on the back porch. So it doesn't necessarily have to look a certain way, and you can be a little flexible.
But Amy, would you like to respond to that and add anything?
Yeah, and I think I have older kids, and I started doing family meetings with older kids, so that's a little easier, right? They already know how to come to the table. But yeah, I think it all, like you said, boils down to expectations and not having these big expectations of what it's going to look like, and letting it flow. And if it's not working for your family, also take a break and come back to it later. Like this is, it's flexible, it's fluid, and it can always evolve. So.
Such great advice. And the thing I'm hearing both of you saying is that it's about the process. It's not about, you end up with this product of, oh, we had this perfect family meeting. It's about the process, and it's about all of the things that I said at the beginning regarding family relationships, communication, problem solving, time management, everything. And life is so busy. And most parents feel like, oh, how do I fit another thing in? And it doesn't have to be more than 10 or 15 minutes. It really doesn't. Again, it's
And it's showing
experience.
it's showing your children that you're making your family a priority. So even if it seems like they're not wanting to participate, it's still showing them that value of bringing your family together.
Exactly. And one of the things that we know, if we think about what I call the parenting cycle, is that most people parent the way they were parented because it's what's normal for them, whether it's, good or bad or right or wrong. And so it doesn't mean people aren't making changes and saying, my parents did this, I don't want to do it this way, I want to do this. But what you're doing is not only setting up a model for your children right now, but you're setting up a model of what they can do someday with their families. Amy talked at the beginning about her friend's family having, the family meeting. It wasn't even her family, but it was such a strong connection of what to do that she carried it forward. I wish we had another hour to talk about this, but we are almost out of time. And so I'd like to begin by asking each of you, and Amy, since you were on first, we're just going to start with you. Would you please take a moment and let our viewers know where they can find you online, on social media?
Perfect. My website is Amy Carney, CARNEY.com. You can find everything there, and you can follow me on any social channel at Amy L. Carney, CARNEY.
Thank you. And Adriane, how can our viewers find you?
Yeah, they can go to my website, Raising Kids with Purpose. Social handles are Raising Kids with Purpose. I'm not as active online, but I do respond to anything if anyone has any questions or wants to reach out.
And so since this will be seen globally, if you get a lot, just people out there know that if she doesn't respond right away, she will, because we don't know how many responses. And so what I would like to leave you with today is that this isn't about feeling like, oh, another thing I have to do, or I never did this. Everything that I try to share on this show is a menu, if you will. When you go to a restaurant, you look at the menu, you don't say, I'm going to have everything all at once. You pick and choose what works for your family right now, and how can you strengthen your family, not just for today or next week's family meeting, but forever. And I'd like to close with a quote. It's anonymous. It says anonymous where I found it. If anybody knows the author, please let me know. And it says, families are like branches on a tree. We grow in different directions, yet our roots remain as one. And I believe that family meetings are a way for all of us, all of our families, to create that oneness forever and ever. Thank you so much for joining us.